RealPodcasts.com proudly presents The Wrestling is Real Podcast, because wrestling needs us. Presented by KingofAmazon.com. When you think of Amazon, think KingofAmazon.com. Greetings, salutations, and Merry Christmas from the Wrestling Zero Podcast. Thanks for being here. We'll be an abbreviated show tonight because I got to go and attend the family that's here for Christmas Day. But I wanted to get the show in because I wasn't going to be able to do it. Probably, I didn't want to make time for it later tonight because I got a lot of movies to go catch up on this weekend. And I'm looking to go see Uncut Gems, Richard Jewell. I'm trying to think of what else another movie I was going to see. Maybe Bombshell. I don't know. It's just depending on what feels good and what the time is right. Anyway, I hope everybody's having a great Merry Christmas out there. I'm not the big holiday, joyful, festive type. But anyway, I said it. There you go. So for this episode, I want to talk about how the Wednesday Night Wars mask WWE's bigger problem. Because it was the best move that the company could have made. When you look at their ongoing problems, when people can look back at the company and see all the issues that WWE has been dealing with for years of their own blame, because they could have avoided all the issues that AEW created. Remember, AEW is a response to how chronically bad the main roster has been for the wrestlers, for the fans, and others. AEW never had to exist. Do you understand that? It was done out of spite. It was done out of vengeance. It was done out of justice, out of rebellion against the establishment. WWE as an established brand has had a lot of many good years, but truth be told, WWE at its best has always done well with competition. And Vince McMahon was able to buy almost 20 years of a monopoly in the wrestling business. TNA was never going to come close. They gave a little bit of a burst, a little bit of a spurt for a little bit in 2011, 2012? And that's about it. It was a blip on the radar, and they were quickly snuffed out. AEW has done a much better job to get themselves on the map immediately. And now, for some people to talk about how they're overachieving, but here's most important. For all the hype that was given to AEW in the first place, they had to hit the ground running, and they had to perform well. They had no choice but to overachieve. Let's be honest. The fans expected to overachieve. That's just the nature of the fans. So the overachievement of this company to this point was good. That was what they had to do. Because if they had to start slow, All Elite Wrestling was not going to be allowed much of a honeymoon period at all. And they have not. I mean, people talk about the honeymoon period has been here. Well, how much long was that? What, a week? Couple of weeks? It's not been enough. But for what it's worth, the company has done pretty well. Listen, I'm not disappointed in their product. And except for a couple of botches here and there, some indie-rific spots, a little bit of slacking of the rules. Listen, those are all justified and valid points that the fans make out there because they're nitpicking. And they're nitpicking. Are they nitpicking just as bad as they are WWE? No, they're not right now, because you know what? The nitpicking that they had with WWE in the first place prior to AEW existing, well, they were doing that, and they were nitpicking the product left and right. But the reason is it's not so much of a nitpick on WWE these days. It's because WWE did the smart thing. Listen, and this is such a corporate move that they did. Everything is done in a corporate manner. Instead of completely righting the ship and getting better storylines and better angles and getting your wrestlers at a better spot and not worrying about who takes the top spot and coveting that top spot to which no one gets to a benefit. No one can benefit or take claim of a spot that you gave Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, and others. You're not allowed to give it. You have not allowed anybody else to take that spot. John Cena has been given that spot, but he's off doing other things because he was going to be bigger than the WWE. We could see that. That's how it was going to happen. So it wasn't anything you could avoid about that. Roman Reigns might get the chance to be that kind of guy as well and help lead this company. Changing Seth Rollins back to a heel was a smart move to help him get to a better spot. And there are others that will benefit from some of the moves that are being made. But again, WWE decided to buy time by creating the Wednesday Night Wars. Yes, they threw NXT into the fire, to take the pun from NWA's pay-per-view. They did. NXT so far has been able to fight on its own. Because really it's been a battle between them and AEW. But how much of a victory, and I ask it to all the Twitterati, the fans out there, everybody out there, how big a victory is this to barely skid, for NXT to barely skid past AEW, a relatively new company? It's only been on for 12 weeks on the air. How big a victory are you going to take? How big of a victory lap do you really want to take of that? Yes, your supposed developmental product, and I air quote that, developmental product, which is not. It's just NXT is the indie version. It's what they perceive indie wrestling would be around the world. This is the way they look at Ring of Honor or MLW or Impact Wrestling or others, the major independents, or the way independent wrestling is, PWG, New Japan, all this. This is their way of presenting indie wrestling in the eyes of Triple H, I would imagine. Because Triple H basically created his own fight club. He got his wrestlers. He's got his type of wrestling, his brand. I don't know if this will ever be the brand that will resonate into the main roster product. It hasn't yet. Because basically all the NXT stars that we've seen, they've all become, they're part of the NXT brand, but they never resonate to that main audience because they're never going to be able to go ahead and turn that audience around to understand and to make them, what's the word I'm looking for? Make them follow their lead, because they're not. Nobody wants to go ahead and feel like, well, you're going to change the stigma, the way the fans think, the way the fans treat your product. You're not going to change it overnight. And it's going to take such a sea change to do that. But you need to throw more Bray Wyatt type ideas at the wall. Because Bray Wyatt is a different concept. And for some of these other characters to get over, you have to start throwing more stuff at the wall. And you need to go ahead and elevate and make sure you keep elevating the stars that you have made. The fact that Daniel Bryan has been kind of giving him a change, a new look, a makeover, back to his original look, because he doesn't have to rely on the long hair and the goat look and all of that. Daniel Bryan can now stand alone, look like he did when he first came to the company in 2009, and now he can stand tall. Because he's over. No matter what, all that he's done in the past follows him. So he's good. Roman Reigns, he's in a pretty good spot as well. But they got to make him get some wins over Baron Corbin, and he has to go ahead and win a title again. In 2020, he has to be a champion again. They're never going to get rid of their part-time problems. Speaking of WWE, because of the fact that, Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, they're limited in the time they come out. And they are making some positive changes. But again, the product is still stale. facelift to the look of the product somewhat. Ratings are pretty stable. SmackDown last week got 2.4 million viewers. You knew that Raw was going to take a hit this Monday, and it did. 1.8 average million viewers. Show was not great, and you could tell it was very generic. And the Royal Rumble is a real mystery as to who they think they would be able to have. That's going to go ahead and take that top spot and win the match, and who they're going to face, because Brock Lesnar needs a opponent. There's no opponent that's been announced for him at Royal Rumble, so he probably won't wrestle. So you'd have to wait till WrestleMania to wrestle him. And so what happens then? These bigger problems are all masked and hidden because people don't think of the focal point of it. Like, people might go ahead and bitch and complain on Monday and Fridays, but what do they bitch about the rest of the week? Wednesday Night Wars. And for AEW to go ahead and fend off what has been hot shot booking across the board by NXT. NXT has had to deliver takeover worthy programming just about every week in order to combat. They had to incorporate NXT into the Survivor Series angle in order to get NXT to where it is right now, where it can steadily compete with AEW. Is it going to go ahead and start blowing away the competition? No. I don't think NXT gets a bigger audience than it does now. AEW, I believe, still has the room to grow. Because we really don't know in the AEW universe who really stands out as the top guys, except for the elite. They're in the middle of building stars. MJF is a star in the making. Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, don't know yet. Chris Statlander is a star in the making. They want to make Britt Baker a big star. They are just kind of standing and looking to find their way, because really it is a land of misfits over there. Like, they actually they got some great stars that are there. They're doing very good at spreading the product around, because AEW doesn't give you the same matches and the same shtick every week, which is also very good. And they are definitely trying to go with some storylines and some angles. Yes, there is some similarity and a little bit of the same kind of theme or mood behind it. But they're trying to go with things that their fans might like, just based on what they like, other video games, they like other movies, like other everything, right? And that's what it comes down to. Dark Order, Butcher Blade Bunny, Nightmare Collective. Yeah, we have factions galore right now. Inner Circle. There's factions there, but again, that is counterculture to what WWE was doing and what they had been doing when things, were kind of popular, because they did have a few different factions that people really enjoyed. Seth leading another triad, another group of three, or trying to be like, be the architect of the Shield, and now being the leader with the AOP as his heavies, that's pretty good. But it's also how the ongoing problem that WWE continues to have. They have to get the faces over. Why they are so afraid of letting the faces get anything on top of the heels and look so stupid in front of the heels, it doesn't make sense. I mean, Kevin Owens cannot stand alone taking hit after hit after hit, and Samoa Joe cannot become a face now, taking hit after hit after hit. These guys have to get their wins back. They have to get over. They have to survive and become bigger. I don't know what they're going to do now yet. We don't know what that's going to be. And those issues get all hidden. Remember, nobody talks about it. Everybody's talking NXT AEW. And I've talked about this phrase before, and I'm telling you, it's once again the same thing, that WWE loves to play to the lowest common denominator of fans. They love to make the fans get down and dirty with other fans. They like to have them. It's not even a debate, because remember, most of these fans, they don't know what debate or discourse is, or if they do, they don't really know how to do it. It's playground mentality. And you have a lot of fans that are overgrown kids, and that's why they're watching, just like I would, because it's a guilty pleasure. When you have a bunch of 20, 30, 40-year-olds talking about something that we enjoyed as kids, and we're fighting about now, it's not like we're watching sports. We don't act like adults talking about it. We talk like kids. We talk like teenage kids, bashing each other one way or the other. Oh, I'm cooler than you. Oh, I'm more popular than you. I'm more cooler than you too. You're a nerd. You're a dweek. You're a geek. You're a dweeb. It's that kind of mentality. And AEW, oh, you're a neckbeard. You're a gamer. You're this and that. Like there's name calling. There's a lot of shots being taken across. But I mean, it's to mask. It's to cloud. It's to hide what. While WWE is trying, basically biding more time to get their shit together. They have to do it. I don't know how they're going to get that done, but they have to figure their way around what all the mistakes that they've been making for a long time now. But ask yourself the question: All Elite Wrestling. I mean, more importantly, there is a thing about how AEW has more of an upside. And that the stars that are in AEW, chance to grow or to fail. And that's most important. They are making overnight names. And you got to say to yourself, NXT, you can have the Rhea Ripleys and the Shayna Baszlers and the Keith Lees and Donovan Dijakovics and Damian Priests. You can have all those guys. You're building up into bigger stars. Listen, those names are going to be bigger on the radar coming up this year in 2020. They're going to be the names that are going to be brought up, and those are going to be the names that are going to be talked about, that people are going to say, move them up. Move them up, call them up. Got it. Those are stars that are getting developed. Meanwhile, the mainstays, your Ring of Honor faithful, the ones that you brought in from those companies, that WWE might never pull up, right? Undisputed Era might never get called up. It's better that they don't. It will be a mistake to see the Undisputed Era, to think that group is going to go and get themselves over. They're small. They might be very talented, but again, these are the kind of guys that will not survive well in WWE. It doesn't. You know that. In the NXT universe, yes. It's a different universe. You will not get the result that you want if the Undisputed Era did get moved up. Look at what Finn Balor went through. Just to get over what he was. Same thing. At this moment with NXT, Finn Balor might not ever have to put on the makeup. He might never become the Demon again. He doesn't have to. Where he's at right now, he doesn't even need to do it. And the fact that some of these stars, like Tommaso Ciampa has been publicly saying, he doesn't want to get moved up to the main roster. He doesn't want it. Anybody else that's coming into the company, some of them might not be wanting the main roster either. Does anybody, as a single star, do they want to be part of that Olympic Village? There is a certain favoritism in the company. We've always heard about that, especially for those that came from other companies. If they have a TNA stigma, of course they get buried. Very rarely do some don't. AJ Styles and Samoa Joe are the best examples. Ring of Honor guys never get that stigma. So seeing Kevin Owens or Daniel Bryan elevate themselves was a good thing for whatever reason. Because being from Ring of Honor, moving up to WWE, obviously those guys, they were grateful for the opportunity to move up where they did. I get that part. But then the others that are on the main roster, you know, think of all those names you've had there for a long time. And Randy Orton and Dolph Ziggler. And I think the thought of buying out their time. And some of those wrestlers, after putting in so many strong years of work, if they're going to just be status quo and they're going to get paid handsomely, then yeah, I guess while they're going to do what they're going to do is fine. Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton can do what they want to do. And they're not worried about it. Other than that, it's a matter of you're going to see the status quo, the establishment in WWE stay the same in 2020. I believe that. We might get some of these NXT stars that will move up that hopefully that fans think are really putting as the next great hopes. Right? And that's what it is. It's hope. NXT and some of those stars, if they get called over, are giving fans hope. Plus, they also want to give those fans hopeful bragging rights. Because if they can say, Keith Lee, see, I was right about Keith Lee. I was right about Rhea Ripley. Look at all the stories that talk about Rhea Ripley. All of a sudden, what a big star she's become. Yeah. She could be the next Rock. She's like the biggest sensation there is. How quickly Becky Lynch is forgotten. But she is. And that's fine. But really, what does Rhea Ripley and the others that you have that might get called up from NXT, how torn apart are they going to become once they get elevated? Keith Lee, I could already tell you they're going to say he's too fat. They're going to have to, he's got to lose weight. He's got to da-da-da. And bask in his glory, they can only get you so far. You know? Rhea Ripley has got a good look. Wrestles very well. She's over with the crowd, but is she going to resonate over to the main roster? I don't think so. Especially when you have that roster of women that are all still, I mean, you have not, yes, the Divas thing is gone. That's basically done and buried. Everybody that was part of the company that was really part of that is out. So women's division still have a look, but again, there is still a type of woman that people expect. It's not that Rhea Ripley's not a very attractive woman. She is. But I don't know if that look and her, the way she stands out, if that will resonate to the main roster. Yeah, she's going to have some choice matches that will be considered dream matches by the main fans. But in the full circle, she has to have more layers. And same thing with Damian Priest. Same thing with anybody else they bring up. There have to be more layers. And then you have some stars that have been around for a long time. You have some that are wanting to go to NXT and be happy to go to NXT. If they can serve their time there. It does feel like a prison when you look at WWE in a case. Because the NXT is like their own wing. It's the fun wing of the prison. And they're stuck there. And at least they're having fun there in that bubble. And fans are very happy that at least they have NXT. Because if they didn't have NXT, how angry and how vitriolic would these fans be if they didn't have it? Because they'd be pissed off. Really pissed off. And I would be with them. But see, I haven't lost myself away from the mark of what's really going on. The main roster still got big problems. They have not fixed this yet. They're still making a couple of moves, but they got to do much more. And we know what some of those changes could be. I mean, really, faces have to become stars. You can't be afraid anymore of who's going to take the ball and who might get too big for their britches to stay in the company. That's going to happen. It's like Saturday Night Live. Some of those comedians, they're going to find their way up and they're going to move themselves out. It's unavoidable. You can't change that. And then you move forward and you say to yourself, the all elite wrestlers in that roster, they have a good place for them. Those are all great opportunities. And for AEW, what they need to figure out is once they give somebody a chance at a gimmick, if it fails, they have to let them go. There cannot be any kind of, well, we want to give you a chance. No. AEW needs to go ahead and start biting the bullet on some stars and start cutting people if they're not making it. If the Dark Order does not pan out, they have to cut them. If Joey Janela does not cut it, and no matter how much of a grassroots following he has, if he does not pan out, it's maybe not his fault, but the company, they're giving some new stars. They're giving some stars that would have never gotten this platform before an opportunity. But again, the stars have to build their opportunity. It's on them to figure things out. And it's a learning process for the elite. They take their lumps, get criticized. They've been coming back and they've been laughing about it, shrugging it off their shoulders, and moving on. But what it comes down to is they have to get some of these stars over. And the thing is, when you're talking about stars that have never really gotten that over in front of the WWE types crowd, that's what they're trying to do, is create those kind of stars. They have to create those. Chris Jericho is the one guy. Kenny Omega is supposed to be that same kind of guy. Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer radio show this week mentioned the fact that when Tony Khan decided to go ahead and invest in creating AEW, that was the idea. And that's what it was. And then, the changes that were made to get to where we were in October, to get them to shuffle the schedule, to get AEW on the roster, to create Dynamite, to get NXT moved over, originally thought to be FS1, then they got it to USA, which was, honestly, a huge thing for them. It was a coup for NXT to get on the USA. Because remember, USA is also the bigger network. Still number one rated cable network there is. TNT wanted to get into the wrestling game. They got in. They found a company that would work just right for them. It wasn't too small and just had the right amount of momentum that could build an audience. But to AEW, to pull 700,000 to 1.4 million viewers any given time is very good, but they have to monetize themselves. They have to weed out the roster when it starts getting bad. And I think that's what the next trend of 2020 becomes, is that you're going to have some AEW stars that will not make it. And then at the same time, WWE stars might have some stars that might not make it either, and they'll get cut. And I think the major independents will benefit from those. I think the MLWs, Ring of Honors, they need to keep an eye on who gets cut. Impact Wrestling to a certain extent, but they have a really strong roster as well. So that's where they're going to be at. And the thing is, Impact Wrestling is really good at bringing people that are really not noticeable, don't even know them, that are unrecognizable from the beginning. The North automatically have become stars. Brian Cage, it was in Lucha Underground, but man, to get him up as a North American star like he is now. Tessa Blanchard has done such a great job building her up. But most importantly, you see other stars that are out there, and everybody's talking about, well, I want to see what's going to happen to when we move them over. Well, okay. I'd like to see what happens too. I will be curious. So I don't want to go too much longer. I want to just leave it at 30 minutes today. And I might just do another show probably at the end of the week, in the weekend, just to kind of do more of a wrap-up of the best of. But I wanted to put out a show for Wednesday because I need to do that. That's, responsible to my audience. So again, we'll leave it there. We'll do more of a conversation about this coming up. But I hope I'm in my point. Anyway, thanks so much for listening in, finding the show, subscribing to it as you always do. And Merry Christmas to one and all. We'll talk to another Wrestling Observer podcast because wrestling needs us.
Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast, brought to you by KingofAmazon.com. Help support the King of Podcasts. Shop now at KingofAmazon.com.